Hello everyone, welcome back. In today's video I'm going to share with you my top recommendations for baby knits. Now, I've received a few questions about some favorite things to knit for babies, and I thought I'd share with you since I have had 2 babies in the last 4 years and have been a knitter through that time. So it's not necessarily going to be just specific patterns, but kind of the categories that I think are really helpful when you have a new baby. So this could be helpful if you are expecting and are a knitter, or if you're knitting for someone else, just some things that might be worthwhile considering. Now, for the initial newborn itty bitty stage, I really like simple hats. And so by that I mean this is a crocheted one, but you can do a knitted version. But you don't want big, floofy anything. You just want simple and easy, and you want to keep their little heads covered. I know for both of my kids we got a little hat at the hospital that's a volunteer had made it donated, and so we kept that as a little keepsake. But the same kind of idea, just something simple. This one does have a little detail, little kind of bow on it here. Little bow detail, but I mean otherwise it is very simple and yeah, it's just easy. Now, when they are little though, sometimes it's worthwhile having some other things as like photo opportunities. So we've all seen those really cute newborn photos, and while it is nice to keep things simple, and I really like that myself, where it's not really distracting from, you know, the newness of the baby, it is nice to have a few little made things, as I don't know, it just helps make your pictures special, I think, especially if you're connected to knitting and yarn and all that to start with. For my daughter, for her newborn pictures, we went with just a pretty basic little hat. I think it's a shell stitch hat, and I put a little flower on the front. I mean, there's tons of designs out there. It's just an option from like a headband if you want to go something in that realm. And then I made for my second baby a little hat, the messenger style hat, and I made some matching little booties to go with them. Again, for me, these items, I mean, it could have been worn as an everyday thing, although, you know, brims and flowers and things, to me that's not what I necessarily want the babies in all the time, but it makes for some pretty cute pictures. Now, along the line of booties, I think there's different opinions on this, but for me, I think there's kind of a line between ones that are practical and useful and some that are more like decorative or more for pictures and things like that. And so for me, I know a lot of sock knitters want to knit socks for their babies, and that's really nice, and I think once they're older it's good, but for babies, socks just don't stay on, and I find that really challenging to be putting, you know, time and effort into making socks for more than just pictures. So socks and booties, and the defining factor I have found is to make booties that have a drawstring. I don't know, it's not like some big secret, but that's what I do, and it really helps to be able to tie it at the ankle, or even just pull it tighter and it cinches in a bit, and then when they're kicking their little legs they don't fall off quite so much. This is the first pair I made for my daughter. They're just gray basic little booties. I'll link the patterns to any of the things I can find in the description box, but pretty simple, and I use the same pattern. I use the same pattern in a smaller size for these ones here. I have a pair here that my mom made that are so cute, but they kind of have the same trouble where they don't stay on quite so well. My daughter still wore them quite a bit. They are, yeah, these little ones here. Very adorable. They make for really cute pictures, and you know, if they're in the car seat or something as just another layer, I think they're helpful. But yeah, they don't necessarily stay on quite as well as the ones with the drawstring. At least for me, I find that's the case. Another option, not knitting, but I'm gonna pop it in here anyways, is these little sewn booties. These are fleece. You can purchase some in this style. This one is called the Thistledown pattern, and there's a variety of sizes, and yeah, it just opens right up, so it's super easy to get on, and it snaps shut. So you can use these metal snaps like I used, or you can use cam snaps, and to me these are like my preferred booty, I guess, footwear, and it also helps to keep socks on. I know a lot of people use like the Robbie's type shoes to help keep socks on, but I find booties like this more comfortable, and they're just more flexible and stuff, and warmer for a little baby. So just popping that in there if you are making things for baby. A really popular pattern for newborns is the newborn Vertebra sweater. I do have one here, and it's like an open cardigan, and the idea is that when the baby is on your chest, then it's not just a bunch of fabric in the way. And I really like that for little babies, just because, yeah, I find all the buttons and things kind of annoying and not so much fun to deal with. It just feels like extra bulk on such a little baby. And so I definitely recommend having at least one of these little sweaters on for chilly days. And the newborn size is free on Ravelry, and then I believe there's like larger sizes available for purchase. This is the newborn size. Note on sizing while I'm at it is just to keep in mind that a lot of babies are not newborn sizes or not for very long. This one, I think I upped the needle size to make it a little bit bigger because I have big babies and they don't stay little very long. To me, it just doesn't really make sense to make a lot of newborn sizes, because at least in my experience, my kids have been like in newborn size sleepers for, like, I've purchased 2 sleepers for basically coming home from the hospital, and then they start gaining weight, and usually within 6 weeks are out of the 3-month size clothing and up from there. So it just doesn't make sense for me to make a lot of smaller things. That's not the case for everybody. There's lots of little babies and it's worth, you know, considering. However, if you're worried about your knitting not getting used, it doesn't hurt to make things a little bigger, in my experience at least. One of my favorite things about knitting for babies is that things can be pretty flexible. Here's a little outfit. My mom made this for my son. And one of the things that's so nice is that you can do things like roll up the sleeves. And it does add a little bulk, but if you're doing it as a warm layer rather than just like an outfit layer, it doesn't really bother me so much at both the feet and the arms. And then it kind of allows for a flexible sizing. And of course, knitting is just so stretchy that it really helps to fit longer. It's more the length of arms and legs that runs out as they're growing. So that's really, I don't know, I find it kind of encouraging. You don't have to worry about sizing quite so much for a younger child. I usually try to make or have, my mom has given me some sweaters and things that fit the bill for the 6 to 12 month size, and sometimes it fits even longer or earlier, like that's just like sizing on the pattern. But by the time they're a little bigger like that, clothes last a little longer, and that's when they actually need an outer layer. When they're so small, even if it's cold outside, they're always bundled up, they're in car seats with blankets, and they're covered, and they need to be covered, at least around here. Winter's cold, but they're actually, by the time they're, I mean 3 months up maybe, but especially 6 to 12 months, they're going to be doing things not quite so attached to you, or maybe they're just being passed around family members, or they're outside, but it's really nice to have some knitted layers at that point. Another area of knitting that I'm just going to mention, I didn't bring any here to show you right now, but if you are cloth diapering and going to be using wool diaper covers, having wool pants and like wool covers are so helpful, and it's so fun as a knitter to be able to make some different wool outerwear. And for me, I use like a pre-fold diaper and put it on with a snappy in the early days, like 0 to 6 months, and then use wool pants or wool cover over top. And pretty much that just depends on season. In the summer, I'll just leave it as the cover, and in the winter, I'll put the wool pants on. And wool pants, like, for me, they don't need to get washed as often. They're aired out in between wears, and then they're lanolized, I don't know, every so often, I guess. And so they really do get worn a lot, probably at least weekly. So that's something that's really worthwhile knitting for me, because it does get used so often. But if you or the person you're knitting for is not going to cloth diaper or use wool diaper covers, probably not useful, but it's just something that is kind of its own area. And if anyone's interested, I'm happy to do a video on that or show you what I have or use or whatever. But I'm just going to skip over that for now, because I don't think that's like as mainstream, so to speak, of what people use. The last area of baby knits is going to be baby blankets. This is something that it seems like people always want to be knitting blankets for babies, and it's kind of, I think we've kind of come away from that in using them, because like safe sleep recommendations are so strongly against blankets. Like, you're not supposed to have kids in unsupervised with blankets or in cribs with blankets even, and yeah, so it's kind of makes people wonder, like, what's the use, you know, or what's the application. So I'm going to share with you what I find useful. First of all, having blankets that will fit in the car seat. If you are a driver, might be different if you're living in a city or you're carless, but for us, we spend a lot of time driving and kids just need to be in their little bucket car seat. Having a blanket that fits in there is really helpful. And so I like using a knitted blanket to cozy them up right over top in the car seat. However, I think it's really worth noting that for a little baby, you want to make sure you're not using a really fuzzy yarn. I've had that I was gifted a few blankets, which was so kind, and I mean, they've had use in other areas, but for in the car seat with their sticky little hands, and they're just kind of clammy, and this, I don't know, certain wools and fibers really stick to their hands, and it's just not so fun to get somewhere and like pry open their fingers to find a bunch of fuzzies and fluffies there, and then as they get older, then it just goes straight in the mouth, and that's kind of annoying too. So it's just something to keep in mind that maybe some of those, you know, at the Michaels, lots of the baby yarns are cottons and things. I think there's some benefit to that. Not that it just needs to be cotton, but just to be aware of how fluffy or pilly or whatever your blanket is going to be. And I've noticed, although I don't have them here, certain blankets have been really better than others in that regard, in just being small enough to fit that need, being able to be kind of folded up and cozied in, but then also be able to fit under the larger over-the-top blanket, which for me, I usually don't use a knitted blanket for that one, just because you have some of those like car seat covers that hook onto the top straps that are like minky on one side and a solid fabric, and I just think it blocks the wind a little bit better than a knitted fabric. The last type of blanket is one I haven't seen really anywhere else before, and I haven't found the pattern for it, but it was a gift from my sister, and it is this play blanket. It goes on the floor, and it was made in this big circle and starts in the middle, works its way out. It's super soft. I'm not sure what kind of yarn was used, but it's very soft, and it's backed with this green fleece, and you can tell it's sewn together so it doesn't pull apart. And anyways, it is so nice when you're just starting to put your baby on the floor, or when your baby's on the floor for tummy time or whatever, to have this spread out, and it lasts, and maybe it gets a lot of use in the first 6 months or so, really until they start scooting a lot or pulling it up or whatever. But it's just such a nice background, and I don't know, it's just such a nice background, and I find I take a lot of pictures of the kids laying on the floor, and we use other blankets just folded down or, you know, laid down for the kids. But it's nice to have something that's intended for that purpose, a little play mat, so to speak. We never buy those play gym things really, but we'll put, you know, toys down for tummy time, and having this has been really, really great. The last note on babies is if you want to make some of those more traditional, larger baby style Afghans or baby blankets, crib blankets, whatever you call them, I'd recommend like kind of marketing it, pushing it more for the older child. So once they start hitting a year and a half, especially up to, you know, pushing into 2, they can, you know, be trusted with more things, and those heavier blankets really have a place then on their beds. That's what I found. I know some people wrap their littler ones in the bigger blankets, but I haven't done that a lot, and have really found that those blankets get a lot more use once the baby gets to be more of a toddler. So just a thought, or a nap blanket, things like that, when they get a little older. Not that they can't be useful when they're younger, but to me they really start to have a place once they have their own bed. Alright, so that's all I have for you today. If you are interested in having some more specific pattern recommendations, I am happy to provide that for you. Again, a lot of it's personal preference, and just like no 2 people parent the same way, what's useful to 2 people might be different. These are just my experiences having babies, being a knitter, and I've tried making a lot of things, it's just not everything has gotten a lot of use. So that's what I'm trying to share with you, and kind of let you know where I'm coming from. Hopefully this is helpful to you. If you are interested in hearing more videos from me, feel free to click the subscribe button below, or leave me a comment on some of your favorite baby knits, either to use or to make and gift. Alright, until next time, bye bye!